Buckle up, folks. This team is a walking highlight reel.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Sunday, October 27th, 2024. Welcome into this live postcast edition of the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and you're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're coming together, a little bit after Carolina's game ended, their exhibition game against Johnson C. Smith, where the Tar Heels just absolutely had their way. We're going to get into all of that. But I want to thank you for making us your first listener watch after the game. And special shout out to all you everydayers joining us, all the Locked On Tar Heels Discord members, and our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Quick reminder, 1 week from tomorrow is the regular season tip-off against Elon. We will be coming to you live after that one. It's going to be a late game. Go ahead and get a nap in now to get ready. Okay, North Carolina knocks off Johnson C. Smith, 127-63. Got off to a slow start. The score was 21-20 with 9.5 minutes left in the first half. And from there, Carolina goes on a 126-43 run to finish the game. That's right. The final, 29 and a half minutes, 126 points in, no, that number is wrong, 106 points in that span. There we go. So 106-43 run. My apologies for mathing bad in that moment. Most importantly, no one gets hurt. That's what you're always looking for in addition to getting everything figured out. You just want to walk away with no injuries. So here's where we're headed on our live postcast. I'm going to give you several takeaways from the game, a couple of ad reads mixed in, and then at the very end of the show, I can see the comments already starting to pile up over to my side, and so we'll get to those at the very end, see what you guys have to say. Questions, observations, get them in now so I can feature them on our YouTube version of this. For those of you listening back later, what's up? Welcome into you all as well. I'll put up the box score here in just a little bit, but let's get right on in. Obviously, we had all been wondering, will RJ play in this game? RJ Davis did not play in the exhibition game at Memphis out of just an abundance of precaution after that hard fall he took in the blue-white scrimmage. The speculation, the anticipation is that he would play in this one. And of course, as we all now know, he did. And so that's good. You know, I had talked about on Friday's show, I think Carolina needed that for him to be able to mix in with his team. He had yet to play with his team against another opponent, and so that needed to happen. What was really nice, he only needed to play 17 minutes. You just want to get some of that, get a bunch of other guys' experience as well. So really positive to have RJ out on the court there. Let's get immediately, though, to what everybody wants to talk about. The freshmen looked a little less like freshmen in this game. You'll remember, I specifically phrase it that way. After the Memphis exhibition, Ian Jackson, Drake Powell, and, you know, when we talk about the freshmen, it's going to be those two mostly, but with some James Brown mixed in. They all just looked like freshmen was the phrase I used after the Memphis game. And that's why I say now they looked a little less like freshmen this time around. And that truly goes for all three of them, not just Ian and Drake. They looked more comfortable. They looked more settled in. They looked more willing to just take off and play basketball. And whether it was Ian's high-flying acrobatics or Drake's two-handed block, like right towards the end of the game, and James Brown's screen setting, that and one he had, I think he had one other bucket, if I remember correctly, had 5 total points. Let me look here as we're talking. Yeah, 5 points for James. And so just really encouraging signs, I thought, from all three of them. And as I said, one of the most important takeaways from this is nobody gets hurt. Good grief. When Ian took off from however far out that was, I was really nervous. The way he came down, like I had immediate flashback to Saturday night and Shohei Ohtani's shoulder injury in the World Series, because that's Ian came down bracing both his arms on that. But then, I mean, it was like literally, a possession or two later, he had that run out windmill dunk and then would have had another one right after that if one of the Johnson C. Smith guys hadn't taken a foul near midcourt. But while it's those high-flying plays that I think we look at and go, crazy stuff, what really stands out about like Ian Jackson, 10 trips to the free throw line in this game and converted 8 of them. That attacking of the rim has to be a core tenet of this basketball team. And Ian got there more than anybody in this game. And, oh, by the way, was the leading scorer, the only Tar Heel to get to 21 points or to 20 points or more. Very balanced scoring attack overall, but was just really glad to see Ian doing that. Hit a 3, had a little bit of other stuff. Also had 3 turnovers, right? And so there are some freshman things in there as well. But with Drake, man, listen to Drake Powell's line. You ready for this? 8 points on 4 of 8 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3, didn't make one of those. 9 rebounds, 7 of which were defensive, 2 offensive, 4 assists, 0 turnovers, 2 blocks, and a steal. So I just love what both of those dudes bring, but in seemingly quite different ways. Again, here Drake's line, 8 points on 4 of 8 shooting, 9 boards, 4 assists, no turnovers, 2 blocks, and a steal. And yes, we in everything I say in this postcast, we're going to have to keep the competition in mind. It's Johnson C. Smith. It's a D2 opponent. Sure, absolutely it is. But the opportunity for these guys to be able to get out there and get this experience, gain this confidence is massive. And so I was really, really glad to see that from both Ian and Drake. But even beyond them, I love this opportunity for confidence building for all the newcomers, not just the 3 freshmen, but for Cade Tyson, for Van Allen Lubin. I mean, good grief. You might not even realize, if you haven't looked at the box score yet, you might not know this. Van Allen Lubin finishes this game with a double-double. 18 points on 8 of 10 shooting, 1 of 1 from 3, 1 of 2 from the free throw line, 12 rebounds, 4 of which were offensive, 2 steals, a block, and 1 turnover. That's what Van Allen Lubin did in this game. And the reason I say you might not realize it is because what I love about this performance from Val is that it was a very quiet double-double. He didn't have to demand the ball or take it over. You know what's nice about this team? You've got so much athleticism, so much explosiveness that if you're a big, all you got to do is run and show up and clean up and do all sorts of stuff like that. And that's what Ven was doing all over the floor. But you look at Cade Tyson, I know there'd been weeping and gnashing of teeth because Cade Tyson hasn't been this, the electric 3-point shooter yet that we expect him to be. Well, 10 points in this game, 2 of 3 from the field, a perfect 2 of 2 from the free throw line. And like, I'm struggling to remember the first one in real time, but the second one he hit in the second half, it was this beautiful rhythm, no hesitation 3 that looked great. 4 of 4 at the free throw line, not as many rebounds today, but I had 4 of them, 2 offensive, and had a block as well, no turnovers. Great stuff from Cade. Only played 19 minutes. Again, that's really all you needed out of him because you're trying to get a bunch out of a bunch of guys. So again, confidence for all of these newcomers coming into the game. One other thing I want to say, and then we'll get to our first break, and then we'll come back with some other things to look at as well. But in a game like this, here's what I feel like we often see from college basketball teams. We had the slow start from the Tar Heels. I mentioned that. You grow out to your big lead, and then the final, like 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes are just throwaway as the team loses focus and guys aren't contributing as much. They're just doing silly stuff. They're not locked in. Walk-ons eventually come in and they do silly stuff, and it kind of skews everything. That did not happen. This Carolina team, probably the most encouraging thing for me was the fact that they worked to stay locked in and loaded on the task at hand, regardless of opponent, regardless of blowout, to keep doing everything they needed to do to be a team and to stay connected until the final buzzer sounded. And that went from continuing to make hustle plays to I loved seeing the bench just erupt. We had the Drake Powell block I talked about, and then that led immediately to the John Holbrook dunk on the other end. And I mean, they just went banana whackers all over the place, both for Drake's block, which again, good grief, but then the dunk as well. That is what I am very encouraged to see, is what I would just term and define as killer instinct from this squad. Now, one of the important things is that there's going to be an all hands on deck approach in a multitude of ways for this team. Hopefully that means it doesn't have to be as much from RJ every night. Obviously, it can't be as much from Armando every night because he's not here anymore. So how did we see that? And what does it look like? And oh boy, let me tell you about Elliot Cadeau's assist to turnover ratio. We're going to get to all of that coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about Prize Picks. When I get down to Prize Picks, which is the place that has made daily fantasy sports accessible to everyone. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot up to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. I love how simple their concept is. It takes away any concern over complicated fantasy strategies. You just go out, here's a player, here's a stat, more or less, boom, you pick it, you move on. I also really appreciate their injury insurance policy. Nothing's worse than picking someone, they go down on like the second play of the game, and then you're just like, ugh, I just knew that was going to happen. Well, with Prize Picks, your lineups stay in play even if one of your guys gets injured. I also like their weekly promos like Taco Tuesday, where they discount select player projections up to 25% off to provide even more value for you. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, gang, as we get back into this thing, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the box score so that we can all see that and see everything that was going on in this one. If you're listening back to this later, no worries. Just go ahead and pull it up on your screen. I think I've posted it on Twitter for you to see as well. All right, here's the next thing. Let's remember Ty Claude not able to play in this game. We'll talk about all the eligibility stuff that's going on, but oh, good grief. Are you kidding me? Anyway, 10 scholarship players in this game. All of them scored. The last one was that James Brown and one we talked about earlier. But as part of that, 10 different Tar Heels finish in double figures, led by Ian Jackson's 21, Van Allen Lubin's 18, RJ Davis, Seth Trimble each have 15, Jalen Washington, Elliot Cadeau both have 12, Cade Tyson has 10, and even beyond that, 8 for Drake. I mean, it's just Jalen Withers, 6. It keeps going on and on and on. But it wasn't just scoring. Rebounding, you've heard me talk about. Because of no Armando Bacot presence, which is going to be, there are going to be positives and negatives to that. One of the negatives is you don't have his rebounding to rely on. One of the positives is that means everyone realizes it's got to be me. What's up, NSYNC? It's going to be me, right? And so you look at this. Yes, Van Allen Lubin had 12 rebounds. Jalen Withers had 8, 9 for Drake Powell, 7 for Jalen Washington. Multiple other players with multiple rebounds, 2 for RJ, 4 for Cade, 3 for Seth Trimble, 4. Oh, those were team rebounds. But it's just on and on and on. Everyone pitching in to this effort. And I'm so encouraged by that reality. That's what is going to need to continue to happen. Spreading the love around. And again, on any given day, any of these guys can make it happen. And that is a nightmare for opposing coaches as they prepare their scouting report. Next thing, a big reason for so many guys doing so much of the scoring, you look at Elliot Cadeau, and against Memphis, remember he had 13 assists, not quite as high today, but I was almost more encouraged by this. 8 assists, big fat goose egg, 0 turnovers for North Carolina's point guard in this game. Part of why that's so impressive to me is, again, it's so easy to get sloppy in a throwaway game like this, where, you're just having fun and moving and doing all this stuff. Elliot, 8 assists, 0 turnovers in this game. That's in 24 minutes. And I mean, so many of those were like alley-oops that led to dunks. Carolina had a 10 total dunks in this game. there was a stretch of back-to-back possessions where Carolina was using that dunker spot for actual dunker action a lot more than we might typically see from them. And I think it was back-to-back plays, Devin Allen Lubin and Jalen Washington, where Elliot just gets into the paint, lobs it up, boom, boom, done. That's it. The guy comes streaking baseline, and it's over. Now, are you going to be able to do that against Division I competition? I don't know. Maybe not as much, but you saw it in action, and that is really impressive. So that is what we need to see from Elliot over and over and over again this season. Next thing to get to is the starting lineup. Following the performances we've seen from Seth Trimble, there's been a big clamoring of, you have to start Seth, right? You've at least got to give it a shot. And I was hopeful that whether Hubert Davis does that next Monday night as Carolina hosts Elon, or maybe even more importantly, when they go to Fog Allen Fieldhouse that very Friday, whether we will see Seth Trimble in the starting lineup or not. Today, we did, and I thought that was really important because I feel like you at least got to see what it looks like against another team. So the starting lineup, as a reminder, Elliot Cadeau, RJ Davis, Seth Trimble at the 3, Cade Tyson at the 4, Jalen Washington at the 5. That's the lineup, I think, with Seth, that's the lineup I've been expecting, given his performances of lately. This summer, not even remotely close. I had Seth coming off the bench, and I will continue to own that because what we're seeing now, I was just woefully dead wrong about that. And I would imagine the vast majority of you out there listening and watching are in the same boat where you didn't have that. But man, because the next thing off of this is one of the questions a lot of people were asking is, okay, Seth has done that, led Carolina in scoring in the blue-white scrimmage, led Carolina in scoring at Memphis. But in neither of those moments was RJ really a factor. Blue-white scrimmage, they were on separate teams, and then RJ got hurt. Against Memphis, obviously, RJ didn't play. So this was the first time where it's like, okay, but let's see it together. How will it happen? Is Seth going to take a necessary step back to give RJ more shots, or what's that going to look like? Well, they both ended up scoring 15. For a long time, Seth was a perfect 6 of 6 from the field. Finally took a 3, I think was his last shot attempt, and missed it. Other than that, was perfect from the field. So RJ and Seth together combined to go 10 of 16 from the field, 30 points, and 9 of 10 at the free throw line. I mean, what I love is that I think a lot of people are thinking of an either or with those two young men. But for me, I was encouraged to see the combination of the two of them because of the way they play off each other. You had that one fast break with RJ and Seth. RJ leaves it up for Seth. Couldn't finish it because there was some Johnson C. Smith traffic in the way, or couldn't finish it with a dunk, I should say. And Seth was on the right side of the rim, too far under with his right hand, so reaches back with his left to finish. Man, it's just bonkers. Which reminds me, when we were talking about the freshmen, forgot to talk about the Drake Powell, Ian Jackson fast break between the two of them, which finished with the Drake Powell dunk. Man, just special. This team is so elite athletically. It's really, really encouraging to see. So that was the starting lineup. And I don't think it is a Seth has to take a step back. I think it's they can encourage each other. They can improve each other. And that is more encouraging to me than like, man, Seth's got to take a step back. Nope. Makes them both better, in my opinion. Now, let's address this. It was a slow start, this game, for the Tar Heels. We talked about it being a 21-20 game with 9.5 minutes, so 10.5 minutes into the game. Carolina's defense was not locked in. Johnson C. Smith, I think, was 4 of 8 from 3 at that point. Now, some of that, they're just making shots. Let's acknowledge that. But some of it was Carolina's defense was not playing at the level or energy it needed to be. And then it almost immediately right there switched. Carolina ratcheted up the defense. They had this 9-0 run somewhere in there that included 3 forced turnovers. They realized, I don't know, it was almost like they realized, oh, we're wildly athletic. Let's get to the rim. And so Carolina started getting to the rim over and over and over again, to the point of which they got to the rim in totality in this game. The Tar Heels did 37 free throw attempts. Again, that needs to be part of the DNA, part of the fingerprint of the 24-25 Tar Heels. Attack, attack, attack. I don't care if it's Drake Powell or Ian Jackson or RJ Davis or Seth Trimble or Elliot Cadeau or whomever, there are so many guys that can get to the rim and get a shot or kick out as the defense collapses. That's what this team needs to be about all the time. So I'm really hopeful that we will continue to see more of that. All right, last thing I want to say, and then we'll take one more ad break and then get to your questions and comments, and then we will get out of here. There was a couple things that I was disappointed in the Memphis game, and that was Carolina's number of turnovers, while at the same time recognizing that game did get sloppy in the end. And then Carolina's free throw shooting. I expect this team to be a strong free throw shooting team. Against Memphis, both of those numbers were bad. In this game, not just good, very, very good. Let's start with free throws. Again, I really loved Carolina's attack mode that they got into, where they weren't just settling for threes, and I thought that made the threes that they did take better. Carolina finishes 7 of 19 from three. That's 36.8%. I mean, honestly, want that all the time. Yes. But again, back to the free throw line, Carolina against Memphis was 16 of 25 from the free throw line, 64%. That's not good enough for this team. Today, not only did they take 37 free throws, because that in itself is very well done, but they made 30 of them. That is 81.1%. So I was pleased with both the volume and the percentage made in the free throws. Very, very well done for the Tar Heels. By the way, they held Johnson Smith to just 9 free throw attempts. They made 5 of them. So great stuff there. The other thing, Carolina against Memphis, 21 turnovers. That's simply too many. Now, part of that is, let's think about Carolina's pace. They will likely have more turnovers when you think about totals this year. But because of how many guards are on this team, that should be very, very strong handling the ball. I want to see that number low, and it was much lower today. Carolina finishes with 7 turnovers, but the last 2 of those were all walk-on numbers. So let's say when the main rotation players were in, it was 5 turnovers, and 2 of them were late by Ian Jackson. So much better controlled on the turnover battle today. Well done by the Tar Heels. And I just noticed Carolina's points per possession, which you would expect it to be really high. You ready for this? 1.608. I mean, that's an insane number for North Carolina. Okay, want to get over to your comments, see what questions you have, see what observations and evaluations of this team that you had. That's where we're going to head next. Right after I tell you about our good friends at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, it's NFL Sunday. I have no idea what's going on. You know why? Because we got to watch the Tar Heels today. How fun is that? I'm going to have to go check that out when we get done here. But you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more right there on that same page where you place your bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. How about some Wooden Award odds? Player of the Year for college basketball. Kansas's Hunter Dickinson leads the way at plus 550. Our guy RJ Davis, along with Bama's Mark Sears, are next at plus 600. Big drop off to Caleb Love and Auburn's Janai Broom at plus 1,600, rounded out by Marquette's Cam Jones at plus 2,200. So if you want to get in on that vote or any other action at FanDuel, go check it all out at FanDuel.com. It's America's #1 sportsbook. All right, I'm going to leave up the box score as we get to your comments. I'm also going to start by taking a drink of water. I'm very, very parched. All right, here we go. Nate Henderson. My heart stopped when Ian almost face planted after attempting to hurdle that guy to dunk on him. I mean, I just want to go back to this because it was so absolutely silly, but I loved it. I love him just saying, screw it, I'm going. I like the difference in Ian Jackson from the Memphis game to this one, just in how he composed himself. I just, get ready, America. This team is coming. And this team, oh, by the way, that Ninja Warrior Bro says, this team is so athletic. And that to me is a critical thing. Is sure, we might be undersized at times. Sure, we might be whatever. We might be defensively not stout in a typical way that you would think of it. This team can defend, though, in some really neat ways. But my word, I need to at some point stop and legitimately think about what Carolina teams rival this team in terms of athleticism. I would like, if you've got thoughts, folks, on who that would be and the makeup of it, I'd love to hear it. But just even getting down into the depth, even thinking not just the guards, but the athleticism of the bigs and what they can do. Man, there's a lot to that there. Okay, let's scroll through here and what we've got. Yeah, here's an interesting point and question by Kenneth Wilkins. Death by 1,000 cuts. I love that phrase. Some teams may have the advantage for a player or two, but will their 5th through 8th man be better than ours? I doubt it. Go Heels. Thank you, Kenneth. Love that. Like, we saw this today, obviously in a much lesser degree than we will against Division I opponents. But another thing that really encouraged me was obviously Johnson C. Smith is just simply not as talented as Carolina. But as they were looking winded as the game went on, the Tar Heels looked invigorated. It was like let's think Omarion Hampton. Often big, just physical, brute running backs like Omarion Hampton, they get stronger as the game goes on, whether they actually do get stronger or it's the perception of they're still going and the defense are all making business decisions and they're getting lesser. With North Carolina today, I really thought they held up well. I thought their, what am I looking? Not charisma. That's a silly word. They're just, somebody help me here. Man, the ability to have your energy and to keep going throughout the game late. And it's just that they are in good physical shape right now and ready to go. But I know that Kenneth's question here is actually more about the talent of it. And let's think about that as well. Let's take today's starting 5. You had Elliot Cadeau, RJ Davis, Seth Trimble, Cade Tyson, and Jalen Washington. That doesn't include either of the 2 freshmen, of the 2 higher rated freshmen in Ian Jackson and Drake Powell. It doesn't include Van Allen Lubin, who had a double-double today. It doesn't include Jalen Withers, who can do so many athletic things. I've already mentioned 9 guys. And so if you want to line up, let's say that Ian and Drake continue to come off the bench, there are very few, if any, teams who are going to have 6th and 7th guys with that level of talent. And if Van Allen Lubin continues to come off the bench and do these kind of things, ain't going to be many teams who have an 8th guy right there. So Kenneth, this is a great point. Sean Mebin says tenacity. That's not the word I'm looking for, but I do love the tenacity they showed there. I'm talking about like when you've been training really hard and you're in really good shape and conditioning. Finally, it came to me. Carolina's conditioning looked so good. Everybody's trying to help me. Ranjit says maybe endurance. Yes, endurance, but conditioning was the word I was looking for. Thank you, everyone, for trying to help me there. Man, it's so true. And Paul's follow-up here to Kenneth's point, Paul Smith says the Heels have have a deep bench. Nintendo says, can we just start 8 guys? And it's funny because it makes me think back to when Coach Guthridge literally had 6 starters and just rotated every game. There was a different one of them that started on the bench. I don't think that's what we'll see from this team, but I think it means this is going to be a dangerous statement, but I'm going to make it. Might we actually see Coach Hubert Davis, for the first time in what's now going to be his 4th year as a head coach, utilize his bench consistently? I think it's going to depend on the game and how they're performing. There's going to be games when both Ian and Drake are freshmen. There's going to be games when other guys might not be as efficient or playing at as high a level. And so we'll have to watch with that. But man, fool me 3 times, fool me a 4th here, shame on me. But gosh, if you keep seeing this, you've got to play every one of these dudes. And again, especially if Carolina's going to play at the pace we want them to, it's got to happen. It's got to be there. It's got to be there. Frederick Holding says, Lubin may be better than Folk, think or no. Thank you for using Folk and not putting an S on the end. This Southern boy, that speaks music to my ears. What I think is so interesting about Van Allen Lubin is I think he's going to be able to do a lot of the same stuff that we needed from Jalen Withers last year or wanted from Jalen Withers. But if he can do it at this level, it might be more consistent than Jalen, of just cleaning up the junk man. And if both of those guys are able to do that, man, that's even more encouraging. Put them out there with a couple of shooters, let them rock. You know what I'm saying? So if Lubin can find that role, like that role he had today was perfect for this team. If he can do that consistently, Carolina's got something. Paul Smith, let's go back to Paul, says the defense is causing this awesome offensive flow. This is a great point by Paul, because Carolina's offense is not just about the offense being awesome. It is precipitated by the defense doing what they need to do. The key there, though, is that the defense has got to do what they need to do. I think Coach Davis is able to sell them on that in terms of effort because of what they saw last year. Like the defense, again, so often last year was Carolina's calling card, as the offense would at times try to find their way. The defense, as we talked about earlier, was not great early. But, man, they started to find their rhythm. And as Coach Rob has said on multiple shows, I would like to see Carolina toy with some different defensive schemes, whether it's some zone, some press, some junk defenses, some jump and run, defenses, whatever it is. And obviously, if they're going to use those, we wouldn't have seen them yet. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if Coach Davis doesn't use those against Elon. You know when you might see them first come out? The first Friday of the season at Kansas. If I'm Hubert Davis, I'm holding those close to my chest until we go play that basketball game. And even then, I might save back some stuff for ACC play because I just don't want to put it all on film yet. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll have to be watching out for that. All right, let's see if there's any, man, lots of Lubin love in here. T-Man asked a good question. What's up, T-Man? He says, does the lack of threes concern you any? So for this game in totality, Carolina took 19 threes, made 7 of them. And I'm assuming, T-Man, that you're meaning 3-point attempts, not makes. Because as I said earlier, I'm great with the number of makes. Carolina had 36% in this game. Honestly, I think for this game in particular, it was a matter of game script. Carolina just simply didn't need it. Why? Because they got to the rim and there was nobody there to stop them. That's not going to be the case against Division I opponents. They are going to find more pushback when they get to the rim against most opponents. But here's what's helpful, T-Man. If they will continue to attack in the way that they did today, when they get to the rim and guys have to rotate over, what does that mean? Kickouts, and then you either pull or pass around the rim, get somebody else to the rim, whatever it's going to be. So I expect we will see more 3-point attempts when the moment calls for it. Just completely unnecessary today as Carolina is just getting out and running. Earl Kinsey says, love the togetherness. Feels like they're united. Haven't seen this. No arrogant attitudes, no hating or whining, positive vibes only. Here's what I love about this. That always starts at the top. And the top this year is RJ Davis. RJ, and this is no disrespect to other stars who know they're stars. RJ clearly knows he's a star, but he doesn't carry himself in that way where you're like, dude, you're a tool shed. Get off. Like, get off it. Just be a teammate. And that's what RJ is, man. He's leading these guys through example. But, man, everyone's in on this together, and it's clear. We talked about it earlier, how much they love each other, how much they want to fight for each other, how much they want to go to war for each other, and that's what's encouraging to me. But you got to keep doing it. You got to stay all connected together when things do, because there's going to be moments this season when they don't have that togetherness, and that's fine. That's a season. That's what happens. But how do you stay connected in the same ways when those things happen. That's what we're going to continue to watch for as the season goes along. Nintendo Nerd, what's up, Nintendo Nerd, says, this team is at its very best when it runs. That's why it'll be important to fully gel defensively. Getting stops leads to transition buckets. And this is another place in which I thought Carolina had good chemistry. I tried to watch as they would lead out on fast breaks. Dudes were very willing to give the ball up to one another for a better shot or a better bucket or a better run out, or keep making the pass, like on the break, keep making the pass until they got the lob for the dunk, that kind of thing. Man, I was so very encouraged by that. And so when you're running and stuff like that, we are going to be a matchup nightmare. Do you realize that? You guys, it's going to be very good. All right, anything else? Nintendo Nerd also says, this is a great point. That dunk attempt from Ian, the one we talked about where he went high flying and came down precariously, was right after Coach Davis had asked Jalen Withers to dunk, and he it was a nice reverse layup, but he didn't dunk. And then Ian came down with a purpose and a mission. Our good friend Shadowlack says, Chapel Hill turned into Dunk City today. Yes, sir, it absolutely did. So I'm curious to see, can Carolina get just a bunch of fast break run out points? I feel like, man, they could just be able to make a killing there. So that's going to be something. All right, guys. It was a great, fun experience. Let me remind us, this is an exhibition game against a Division II opponent, but that doesn't mean there is nothing you can take away from this. Yes, we take it with a grain of salt, but the gang rebounding, the multitude of scoring options, the athleticism, the defensive movement you can get, all of that is capable regardless of opponent. It's just about Carolina locking in and doing everything they need to do. That's what we're going to have to watch out for as everything carries on this season. Okay, tomorrow, coming up on the show, we will have more from this game. We will discuss the football game blowout that Carolina had. We'll talk about our weekend whip, where Carolina has had a bunch of high-level teams getting close to the end of the regular season. All of that coming up. Make sure that you tune in with us. If you have not yet subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels on video and audio, make sure you do that so you don't miss a second of the show. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, we'd love to have you there. So many of our commenters today are part of that Discord group, and man, we're always having a great time hanging out in there. The link for that's in the show notes. Come on in, man. It's absolutely free. If you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, would love to have you do that. It's an opportunity to go even deeper with our show, where you can text me directly one-on-one. You get access to all of my charts and stats and data. I'm actually right now in the process of preparing all of those things for the upcoming season so that it's ready for Monday. You're not going to want to miss out. 2 week free trial. And then it's just $5 a month after that. All right, guys, you know the drill. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Can't wait to be right back with you tomorrow. But until then, peace.